We'll be starting in a few minutes. We're scheduled to go from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock tonight. We've got a few programs to go over today, and we're still waiting on a few more to join. Once we get a critical mass, looks like we're getting closer. Just give us a few more minutes, and we'll get started. We look forward to our conversation tonight. All right, well, good evening, everyone. Well, thank you for sharing your evening with us today. We're excited to have you all. My name is Enrique Flores. I am a planner in the Long Range Planning Division here at PDS. I'm joined today with my colleagues, Sarah and Morgan, and together we're the project managers for the options for streamlining affordable and attainable housing programs. Today, we're hoping to get your thoughts and suggestions on draft options for 3 housing programs currently in development here at PDS. We're hoping to hear from you. We're hoping to hear from you on where housing should be built and how these programs can help create and make a positive impact within our communities in the unincorporated area. Before we jump on to the main components of the presentation, I'd like to take a moment to go over some information on how you can engage with us tonight. I also want to let you know, for those of you who have just joined, we are recording this session. The session will be posted on our project website for people who are not able to attend tonight. This will also give you an opportunity to go back and review some of the material that we're going to be discussing today. We're excited to receive your feedback on these exciting programs that we're working on during tonight's workshop. You can share your questions and comments through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Staff will be monitoring and responding to questions throughout the presentation. As we go through some of these programs, we'll be pausing throughout the presentation to highlight your questions and answer some of those questions for some of the attendees tonight that may not have access to their feature on their device. If you have any additional comments after tonight's meeting, you can submit comments via email or voicemail. We will be providing the contact information at the end of the presentation. Tonight, we will be discussing the board direction and background of 3 housing programs currently being developed at PDS. The programs include a small lot subdivision program, a senior and assisted living housing program, and a county by right program. We will be providing additional insight on the direction from the board in just a moment. For each of these programs, we will provide a brief introduction of key concepts that influence the programs. We will review the draft options for potential implementation of these programs. And after we review those options, we will pause after each program to highlight your questions and comments that you submit through the Q&A. We will also have a Q&A period at the end to make sure we're capturing all your comments and questions to ensure we're able to address everything tonight. Now, direction for these programs came during the housing element adoption hearing on July 14, 2021. During the hearing, the board directed the staff to develop programs focused on increasing housing production in unincorporated areas. As noted earlier, these 3 programs include the small lot subdivision ordinance, a senior and assisted housing development program, and a county by right program. Collectively, we refer to these programs as the options for streamlining affordable and attainable housing. For each of these efforts, the board directed staff to identify program options as well as funding resources to help implement these programs. We anticipate packaging these efforts together and have tentatively scheduled them to return back to the board for additional direction later this fall. Today, we will be discussing each of these programs in further detail, as well as outlining the goals and objectives we hope to achieve for each program. I'd like to highlight and speak a bit to why these programs are important for our region. Over the years, our population has continued to grow to approximately 3.3 million people in the county. Unfortunately, the number of housing units being produced has not grown at the rate needed to meet the demand. With the median home price at $925,000, along with high mortgage rates, housing has become increasingly unaffordable for many working families in San Diego County. The majority of moderate and low-income households, both renters and homeowners, are cost burdened, meaning they spend more than 1/3 of their monthly income on housing costs. As the region struggles with housing stock and affordability challenges, county staff are focused on developing new housing programs that work to increase housing production across all income levels. The overarching goal of these 3 programs is to help build more housing. To achieve this goal, we need to look at ways to make it easier to build housing. One of the ways a county can help is by streamlining the project review and approval process. Let's quickly review what we mean when we talk about streamlining. Streamlining simplifies the steps that a project must undergo in order to obtain approval. These features can include creating checklists to simplify the application process, reduce administrative review times and number of rounds, and committing to guaranteed review times for housing projects. Streamlining can eliminate unnecessary costs and barriers in the project review process. The 3 programs that we will be discussing today look at various ways for streamlining housing projects. The first program we will be discussing today is a small lot subdivision program. Small lot subdivision allows for the development of smaller single-family homes. The program does not change a site's density or zoning. Rather, it provides more options to build housing at affordable price points. The units can be attached or detached and potentially share a common driveway. Building types may include duplexes, triplexes, row homes, or fully detached homes. The objective of this program is to increase home ownership opportunities for residents in San Diego County. Small lot developments provide first-time home buyers the opportunity to access affordable housing within higher price real estate markets. Allowing for small lot single-family design creates affordability through design as it promotes a range of housing types and scales offered at various price points. To help meet these objectives, we have developed 3 draft options to help guide how the program may be implemented. We will be discussing those draft options next. Our first option looks at state law for guidance for small lot development. Currently, AB 803, or the Starter Home Revitalization Act, allows property owners of parcels zoned for multifamily to subdivide their lot for the development of small homes. Under option 1, the board can choose to utilize existing state law for guidance on small lot development. Or as a second option, the board can choose to implement a local program that is reflective of our local site and environmental constraints, and more importantly, developed through local stakeholder input. To support either of these options, whether to look towards state law or implement a local program, the county can help streamline small lot projects by developing objective design standards. This option would establish an eligibility checklist and planning standards to help streamline small lot projects. Additionally, I'd like to note that option 3 can be combined with option 1 or 2. The board may choose to simply utilize state law for guidance, but help streamline small lot projects through the use of objective design standards, or pursue a local program in addition to state law. In either case, objective design standards can help support these efforts. I will pause here to review some questions received and comments through our Q&A box. We'd like to hear your thoughts on these options. Should the county develop a county-specific small lot program? Should we utilize objective design standards to support both a local program or state law? And more importantly, are there any unique opportunities that we could be addressing through this program that we simply have not looked at this moment? One thing I do want to highlight is that these are draft options. We have not identified specific areas for where this project can be implemented. Tonight's session is dedicated to gathering your feedback on preferred locations and scopes for these programs. These are still very much in draft form. And through your input tonight, we hope to evolve them to a next set of options. Great. I think at this moment, if still see there might be a few more questions coming through. As they come through, we will be working to answer your questions. Please, if you have questions on the small lot program, continue to bring them in. We will circle back on these questions. I'm going to hand it off to my colleague Sarah, who will be discussing the senior and assisted living program.
Great, thanks, Enrique. All right, so our next program is the effort to develop options for a senior and assisted living housing program. The program objective for this one is to allow for more senior and assisted living housing facilities and provide additional incentives to encourage more of these housing types. And we also want to focus on increasing the availability of more affordable and accessible housing for older adults through the provision of incentives. And just to give a quick introduction as to why senior housing is important, we did put a few statistics together to go over tonight, and some of the highlights are that the population is aging and new housing is needed. In 2022, adults 60 years and older made up 21% of the population in San Diego County. 31% of seniors work. Of the housed population, 75% of seniors own their own home and 25% rent. Of those that rent, 63% pay at least a third of their income on rent. 34% of seniors live alone, and half of the homeless population in California is over the age of 50. And this slide shows the spectrum of different housing options that are available to seniors. And we are focusing on the first 4 as part of this effort, which are living alone at home, living with family or in shared housing, senior independent housing, and assisted living facilities. Many older adults own their homes and continue to live alone. Others live with family members or have shared housing arrangements. Senior independent housing is a broad term that means any type of independent living facility for people who have reached the age of retirement. And while different facilities have different age requirements, the county zoning ordinance defines a senior citizen as someone 62 years or older. It also includes a provision for someone who is 55 years or older and already lives in a senior housing development. Assisted living housing is a facility that provides housing where adults can receive non-medical help with the daily tasks such as eating, using the restroom, getting dressed, and taking a shower. So through meetings we had with seniors and senior advocates, we heard that older adults have unique needs that set them apart from others, and that senior housing should be located in areas with access to affordable and reliable transportation, services, and amenities. Proximity to shopping and mixed use is also important. It should take into account the continued cost of health services, such as medical expenses, which increase as seniors age. It should be accessible and located in areas with complete streets such as sidewalks, crosswalks, parks, and other public spaces nearby. It should not be isolated, but it should be integrated into the community to provide the residents opportunities to interact with each other and with the non-senior population public. So these considerations were taken into account as we developed the program options for promoting senior housing projects. So the first option being considered is to develop an overlay zone and allow faster development of affordable senior housing and assisted living projects within it. So an overlay zone is a tool that creates a layer on top of existing zoning designations, and they provide additional opportunities for incentives and a faster review process for property owners or developers. And these incentives would specifically encourage the production of affordable housing. So where should an overlay zone go? So some ideas we're considering are in areas that offer a variety of accessible transportation options, areas that avoid high risk of fire or other environmental sensitivities. And from tonight, we also want to hear from you where you think senior housing is most needed in your communities. So our next program option we are covering is to utilize density bonuses. Now, density bonuses are a tool that incentivize affordable housing by offsetting the costs of affordable units. These incentives can come in the form of reduced development standards, such as setbacks, building height, open space standards, or increasing density, and they can be offered if a development includes a certain amount of housing as affordable. Some bonuses are already available through state density bonus law, which provides developers with bonuses and incentives to encourage the development of affordable and senior housing. So the county also has to meet this state law, but we also have the discretion to go beyond it. So this option would be to go beyond what is required under the state density bonus law and offer some additional bonuses or incentives to further incentivize the production of affordable senior housing in the unincorporated county. A density bonus program could also apply to projects that provide accessible units. So another option we're considering is creating a program that grants incentives to projects that provide a certain percentage of units as accessible, such as universally designed. Universally designed housing is designed to be fully functional for all persons in all stages of life, regardless of ability or mobility. And features of universal design include stepless entrances, interior and vertical circulation, and accessible features in rooms such as bathrooms, kitchens, laundry rooms, etc. Another accessibility standard we're considering for incentives is visibility standards. These are less extensive than universal design, but they still enable current and future residents to age in place and adjust to temporary or permanent mobility issues and accommodate visitors with disabilities. And a house is considered visitable when it meets 3 basic universal designs, and those are a no-step entrance, doors with 32 inches of clear passage, and 1 bathroom on the main floor that is accessible by wheelchair. So the County Department of General Services is responsible for managing county-owned properties and also disposing of county-owned properties that are no longer being used. And when county-owned land is no longer being used, it is screened to determine if it can be used to develop affordable housing. However, this is a lengthy process and the land can go unused for years at a time. So for this option, county departments would create a new process in which unused land within each department is identified and sent to the Department of General Services annually to be assessed for affordable housing projects. And by creating affordable homes on county-owned land, this process would naturally help with the housing stock throughout the region, including housing for seniors. So now that we've gone over some of the tools that we have to incentivize senior housing, we want to hear from you how we should utilize them to meet your priorities. We have 3 possible outcomes of this program, which are more units for seniors overall, more units that are affordable, and more units that are accessible. And we want to create a balance between these 3. For senior housing in general, we want to consider where the project should be built and how many age-restricted units projects should need to provide. 100% age-restricted developments would provide the maximum amount of housing for seniors, but intergenerational developments that aren't entirely age-restricted would allow seniors to live with younger relatives or caregivers. For prioritizing affordability, we want to consider how many affordable units projects should need to provide to qualify for incentives, and what level of affordability they should be restricted to. We want to find a balance on this one with how restrictive a program should be, because we do want these affordable units built, but it will need to be cost effective for developers to utilize the program. For prioritizing accessibility, we'll want to determine how many accessible units projects should need to provide to qualify, and what accessibility standards should qualify. Similarly, if we make accessibility requirements very restrictive, it could result in fewer developers actually utilizing the program. And finally, for all of these, we want to think about what incentives should be provided, such as faster review times for an overlay zone or density bonus programs. So with those considerations in mind, here's a slide with a refresher on the draft options, and we'll pause and take another break in the presentation. You can finish getting any questions you had from this section into the Q&A, and I'll take a look at the Q&A and see if there's any questions we want to go over that would be beneficial for the whole group. Yeah, it looks like we're getting a lot of great feedback. We really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. Looks like we have some concerns about septic dependent communities, and none of the options being developed for these programs would change septic requirements that are already in place for the county. And yeah, we've got our staff working on answering the rest of everyone's questions. So thanks again for everyone's patience and providing for great feedback, and we're more than happy to answer all of your questions. But in the meantime, we can keep going with our presentation. So I will pass it back over to Enrique to go over our final program for the evening.
Great, thank you, Sarah. The next program we'll be going over is the County By Right program. Before getting into the draft options, I'd like to provide a definition of 2 key elements that help inform the options that we'll be discussing today. The first concept I'd like to highlight is by right. A by right approval program creates a process that involves no discretionary review or hearings to obtain project approval. Under a by right process, a building permit can be issued if the project meets all objective zoning and design standards. The benefit of this type of process is that it provides a higher level of certainty for the community, as projects are required to meet established objective design and planning standards to be eligible for the program. These standards are often determined by a community to make sure developments fit within the design and appearance of their neighborhood. For developers, the by right program offers a predictable process that makes it easier to start a project and reduce the time and costs associated with project reviews and permit processing. Additionally, the by right program can also incentivize developers to build housing that is affordable. The second concept I'd like to highlight is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA. RHNA is a process where local governments are given a minimum number of new homes to plan for. This allocation covers all incomes, and the county needs to incorporate this minimum number into its housing element, which is a part of its overall housing plan. The goal is to ensure a diverse range of homes for people with different incomes, fostering inclusivity within our communities. As part of the direction from the board for developing this program, staff was directed to evaluate the opportunities for implementing the by right program on all RENA sites, as well as mixed use and commercial sites, if a developer agrees to provide at least 20% of the units as affordable housing. After initial stakeholder interviews and best practice research, staff developed draft options to guide how and where the program may be potentially implemented, which we will be discussing next. For the county by right program, we have developed two options which guide how the program could potentially serve our communities. Under option one, we would support development on RENA sites if a project provides a minimum of 20% affordable housing to lower income households. Under option two, we would extend the program to projects that consist of 100% affordable housing units on non-RENA sites. I will pause here to review questions and comments received through the Q&A box. We'd like to hear your initial thoughts on these two options. Should the program focus primarily on RENA sites? If a project is not within a RENA site, should it be required to be 100% affordable housing? Should there be a minimum project size to be eligible for the program? Or are there additional opportunities that we could help address to meet the housing needs for our region? I see there's a lot of questions still coming in, pending. I don't see any specific to the by right program, but I would like to highlight a few as those are coming in. One specifically for the small lot subdivision program, as we're waiting for more questions to come in. There was a question regarding the small lot subdivision program to ensure that the units are built and be owner occupied rather than rented. Thank you for that question. At this time, these options do not include owner occupancy requirements, but that's certainly we will make note of your comment as well. Great. Well, while we wait for a few more questions to come in, I want to highlight a few things on our last slide. So while we wait for more questions, I'd like to highlight ways you can connect with us. Staff will be reviewing the feedback received today, and we will be revisiting each of the options to make refinements based on comments and questions received today. If you would like to receive updates, you can visit our website and sign up to receive updates. We will add the website link in the chat, or you can also use the Q&R code on the screen, which will take you directly to our project website. We had a great question come in regarding affordability, and so we usually use for affordability we use the definitions from HUD, which create various income levels. So for our very low income, it's usually 0 to 15% AMI, extremely low 15 to 30% AMI, and very low income is 30 to 50% AMI. And the projects that we're looking at are focused on lower income and below, which would be essentially 80% AMI and below. And with moderate projects, moderate income being considered 80 to 120%. So a lot of our initiatives our funding initiatives at the county focus on 80% and below. So those are we tend to align with those types of funding requirements as well. I also want to note that we have the draft options discussed today. They are available on our project website. You can review those as well at your convenience. And you'll be able to submit those comments via email or voicemail at any time. We will have those up until about mid-March. Waiting for a few more questions to come in. We had a great question regarding the 20% set aside on the buy right program. That was part of the direction provided from the board. They wanted us to include that as a minimum set aside to be eligible for the program. Also, I'd like to highlight that this is our first webinar. We have a second webinar on March 13th, just under a month from now at 6 p.m. We will be sending out a reminder in the weeks to come for that second meeting. And we'll be going over the options and some of the feedback that we received today. We received a great question. Will this be available throughout the county or only unincorporated areas? If adopted, these programs would serve the unincorporated areas only. Great, everyone. I do want to highlight that you can reach us at the PDS email on the screen, as well as the phone number that comes directly to staff. And we are happy to answer any questions, take any calls. The QR code on the screen will take you to our project page, where you can review all the materials we've developed to this point. Read a bit more on some of the programs, how they were shaped, and more importantly, provide your feedback at any moment, at any time. Oh yeah, as a clarifying, AMI does mean average monthly income. This uh, average median income, I'm sorry. These numbers are updated annually to determine affordability levels. And the numbers for the San Diego region can be found on a link that was provided in the chat. Those are provided by HUD, and we adhere to those when we establish affordable housing income limits. I do want to note that our second webinar will cover some of the same information. However, following the feedback provided today, we will we will um, we will update some of these incorporate some of the feedback received today into our options for further refinement. Oh, see one more question. Would the small lot subdivision program also address lot splits, allowing larger lots to be split for small single family units? Yes, the small lot subdivision program would allow for subdividing a larger multifamily zone parcel into smaller lots for the development of single family units. Great question. Thank you. I do want to note that the draft options that we discussed tonight are aimed at providing additional housing options for all income levels and all stages of life throughout the unincorporated community. In our second webinar, I saw a question come in regarding the second webinar will be on March 13th at 6 p.m. We will be sending out a reminder in a couple of weeks with the link to that webinar.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for your patience as our team works through these questions. I want to just reiterate that our project website is on the slide right here, as Enrique mentioned earlier, with the QR code. If you want to use your phone to access the project website, you can do so as well. We also have a project email address, which is pds.longrangeplanning@sdcounty.ca.gov, or you can call us over the phone on the phone number on the screen as well. Please make sure to mention that in the email that this is in regards to the options for streamlining affordable and attainable housing project. And we'll get that to the correct people, Enrique and Sarah, who are managing these efforts. Thank you again for your patience as we work on these questions. I did want to go over a couple of the questions that are in the Q&A box. Some question asking about our RENA and what it means to be very low. And so what this is in regard to for very low income, as Enrique mentioned earlier, the income categories for affordable housing are based off of the area median income. The link to the area median income can be found in one of the answers as well, that link to the county website. This number gets updated annually through the federal government, and they assess the area's median income. And based on that number, different categories off of that, certain percentages below that area median income are the income categories that we're referring to. So when we refer to very low, we're talking about 50% of the area's median income. When we talk about low, that is 50% to 80% of the area's median income. And then 80% to 120% of the area's median income would be considered moderate. So I hope that clarifies that answer.
We also had another question regarding our timeline for returning back to the board. We're hoping to go back to the board later this fall with these options.
And did we go over the date for the second webinar, or when we're anticipating the second webinar could occur?
Yeah, that'll be on Wednesday, March 13th at 6 p.m. as well.
So we have another question here. Will mixed use housing options be something that will have to be voted on? In terms of mixed use housing, what we're talking about here is typically when we have two different types of uses, with housing being one of the components. So usually this could be retail or commercial use in the same building as residential, or it could also be a use that's next door to residential as well. The options that we're talking about tonight in this program are not looking at changing any of the zoning classifications in the county. These are programs, options for potential programs that the county is currently exploring. And we'd like your feedback, and we've gotten plenty of feedback tonight on different ideas of where these programs could occur, different types of requirements that you'd want to see development have to follow in order to benefit from some of these options. So it's been a lot of great feedback. We really do appreciate it. And our team is going to continue working on these questions. We've been getting a ton of them. Enrique, I think we have a couple more answers that we haven't gone through. If not, we can go over just real quickly how to stay involved as well.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, you can stay involved with the project by signing up to our mailing list. You can follow, again, the QR code or the link dropped in the chat earlier. You can, once you sign up for the mailing list, every time that we have a webinar or updates or materials that we're posting on our website, you'll get an email where you can review those materials, sign up for future webinars, and be up to date on how these options are moving forward. We did have a great question regarding how many units will 20% provide? Will it effectively address the shortage of housing? The 20% affordability requirement varies depending on the number of units provided in the project. So if a project is to provide 100 units, 20% of that would be required to be 20 units at affordable rates for low-income households. There was a great question about any assisted living facilities that have units designated for affordability. There are some great resources, which we've noted in a link in the chat for the county's Live Well program. Following that link will connect you to some of that information. And we did have a question regarding senior program and the proximity to healthcare facilities. At this moment, the proximity to healthcare facilities is not a factor in the options, but it is something that we can look at as we further develop this option. And there was another question regarding the 20% set aside. So that affordability set aside, or the 20% requirement, would be imposed only on projects looking to utilize the county by right program, which we are discussing here today. I'd like to take a moment again to really promote our project website. That is really the best way to get a hold of us and be up to date on how you can engage with these programs and provide your feedback. The email on the web page, on the screen, as well as the phone number on the screen, comes directly to us. Please make sure to note the project that you're interested in, so it gets routed directly to Sarah or myself, depending on the program. For a small lot subdivision program, and as well as the county by right program, I would be the contact. The senior and assisted living program, Sarah is the project manager on that. There's also been some great questions regarding lot splits to build 2 homes on a single family lot. We've added some information on SB 9, which outlines those requirements for single family lot splits. You can find that link in the chat, and it will provide some resources available through the county to navigate that process. And to highlight a few more resources available through the county, there was a question regarding grants available to help the most needy acquire the housing they need. Could be a small lot subdivision unit. Great question. There are some loan opportunities both through the state and locally for first-time home buyers. The draft options for this effort focus on increasing the availability of these small lot scale homes for first-time home buyers. And we had another question on how will we assess and adjust the program based on real world outcomes besides units built, but increased timeframes for the project being built. Time is the issue with the housing crisis amongst many. How will these fast track building time? That's a great question. Really, our focus on streamlining housing process typically involves simplifying and expanding the various steps involved in housing development, such as permitting, zoning, and approval procedures. For example, a by right or ministerial process would remove the requirements to conduct CEQA analysis, which would save time and cost for these projects. Again, thank you all for your patience. We're working to address each of these questions. They're great feedback, giving us a great perspective on how we can shape these projects to best suit our communities. Again, even after this meeting, if there's additional comments that you would like to submit, information that you would like clarified, or you can connect with us through the project webpage or email or over the phone. We're happy to extend the conversation. But just to highlight, if these policies, whether these policies are in place, these are at this moment, these are just potential options for these programs. Currently, the county does not have a small lot subdivision program. We're looking to develop one through your input, and also develop a by right program through your input. And there was a question regarding clarifying what existing zones would stay as is. A lot of the zones in unincorporated areas are zoned for open space to prevent sprawl. Great comment, great question. Thank you for that. The small lot subdivision program would not alter zoning designations for open space areas. Instead, it would enable areas currently zoned for multifamily residential use to be developed as small lot projects. This would offer alternatives to multifamily developments such as apartment buildings, and further promote homeownership opportunities within our unincorporated communities. Well, thank you again for these comments. We're working through comments currently. We have a whole team of staff working to address them. This is very helpful for us. Thank you again for your patience. And again, through your feedback received tonight, it will help us identify the best way to develop these programs further based on location, based on program size, program requirements, eligibility requirements. All this information is extremely helpful. So we really appreciate your time this evening. And again, any additional comments are always received outside of webinars at any time through our project website. We had a great question regarding density bonus in response to one of the answers provided by our team member on affordable housing units. Will the 20% apply to projects after the density bonus is allowed? In other words, if a project gets a density bonus to go from 100 to 150 units, will the 20% now be 30 units and not 20? That's a great question. In California, in the California Density Bonus Program, affordability is typically calculated on the total number of units in the development, including both market rate and affordable units. The percentage of those units required for eligibility for the density bonus program and other incentives is usually applied to the total number of units in the project. So, for example, if a development consists of 100 units and the requirement is to have 20% of the units designated as affordable, this would mean that 20 units out of the total 100 must be affordable to qualify for the density bonus program. Another great question regarding SB9. It is my understanding that SB9 does not include rural unincorporated areas like Borrego Springs. SB9 does not apply to all areas in unincorporated county. In order to be eligible, projects must meet the state-specific requirements. For example, to qualify for SB9, the subject parcel must be located within an urbanized area or urban cluster as designated by the U.S. Census and be a single-family residential zone with a B, C, or D building type. Another great question regarding should the county have inclusionary requirements applied to all housing developments? The county is currently working on a draft inclusionary housing ordinance that would potentially apply to all projects. More information can be found on the project website. We've provided that project website within the chat. And there was a question, how are these programs also looking at long-term solutions? Will these small lot subdivision units be high quality and last a long time? All construction within the unincorporated area will be subject to review and inspection by our building department and must meet all aspects of the building code. If you would like a copy of the slides tonight, please feel free to reach out to the PDS long range planning email. on the screen. We'll be happy to send you a copy of these slides. And thank you again all for your patience. We've got some great questions coming in, some great comments. We're working on addressing all your questions this evening. And another question for small lots, by allowing existing single family lots to be split into smaller lots into smaller, this would impact rural communities as well. Currently, your program as designed would not really apply to rural communities. I do want to highlight that at this time, geographic criteria for a potential small lot program could be included to determine areas that are eligible for its use. Thank you for that comment. That'll shape how we look at this program as well. Also want to highlight again that the recording for this webinar will be available on our project website. You'll be able to review the presentation again, as well as submit comments through that project website. And also as a reminder, as Mike noted earlier, as if you leave a voicemail or send us an email, please make sure to include either my name, either myself or Sarah's name, to make sure that the staff reviewing those messages and emails know who to forward it to. We've got a lot of interest regarding our recording. We will be saving it and making it available in the next couple of days on our project website. Thank you all for your continued patience. Our team is currently working on answering a few more questions that have come in. A lot of great feedback being received tonight. We did get a few questions regarding our transcripts for this presentation. I'm going to work to confirm what our capacity is for providing that transcript. And certainly if we're able to get one from Zoom to our subscription, we will make that available as well. It looks like we'll only have capacity to provide the recording and not a transcript. That is something we'll certainly look at our capacities for the next webinar. I also want to highlight that all the options that we discussed today will be available for additional comments. At this point, we'll continue to refine them based on these comments and present them to the board, tentatively scheduled for later this fall. Right, just a few more questions our team is working on. We really appreciate the interest in these projects and the dialogue here tonight. The questions here tonight have been fantastic. Again, we really appreciate all the interest in these programs and wanting to know how you can follow up. Best way to reach us is through the PDS email as well as the voicemail. And be up to date on our project website. We try to maintain everything up to date so that you're able to access our most recent documents, our most recent meeting times as well. And as we near our next workshop on March 13th, we'll make sure to send out, we will be sending out a reminder email with updated information for your review. We do have on our project website, we do have a program feedback guide that provides a short description of a short overview of the materials covered today, as well as each of the options. And provide some additional information on some of the things that could be considered when providing feedback. And making sure we've covered all the comments. Again, any of the materials covered tonight, including the recording, will be available through the project website, and you'll be able to review those at your convenience.
All right, everyone, thank you again for all the feedback. I did want to just answer this last one about the Q&A that has been used for the questions tonight. We will be providing, again, the recording on the website of tonight's webinar. We'll also be providing a summary of the Q&A box of all the questions that we received and the answers in the coming days, along with the video having to be uploaded and then put on the project website. So please continue to check back if you're interested in that on the project website. That's accessible either by the URL on the slide or on the QR code that's on the slide right now. Again, to stay involved, if you go to that project website, we do have an email notification list that you can also sign up for. We sent out the invite for this webinar through that same email notification list. So if you'd like to continue getting updates on this project, please sign up. And if you have any questions or feedback after tonight or in the coming days or as they come up, feel free to reach out to our team either by email or by phone. Okay. Thank you all again for your participation tonight, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.